a lot of you know who I am already. So for those of you who don't, I'm Tina Trevino. I am a partner and the Director of Community Relations for Latin Biz Today. I'm also a really good party host, which is why they selected me to be your host for the virtual lounge. So super welcome to have you guys here with me this evening. And Latin Biz Today is a digital publication that has all exclusive content for anybody looking to start a business, grow their business. We have over 120 contributors and we have an advisory board. So if you guys need any help or you have questions with anything, you can always reach out to us and we can try and give you a hand with whatever your needs are. Tonight, we're going to have some fun. So I am excited to have Adam Padilla and George Resch with us tonight. So George, is that how I pronounce your last name, Resch? Is that right?
Yeah, very, very good. That's like 1 out of 1,500 people get that right. So thank you.
So Adam is actually co-founder of BrandFire, which is a New York-based marketing firm. It's amazing. I love them. That team is phenomenal. And George is the director of influencer marketing for the company. So I'm sure a lot of you know them, but I know a lot of people don't know them by their names. They know them more by their social media handles. And you'll recognize so many of the things they out on social media. So Adam goes by Adam the Creator and George goes by many things, Tank Sinatra, and then I think in the last year or two, you've put out a couple of new things, which I love. Tank's News and Influencers in the Wild. I am so, I love it. It's just ridiculousness. And I'm happy that I'm not one of those people on there because I probably do a lot of the things that those people do. So.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I wanted to have you guys on here because I think what you guys do with the combination of your social media and using it to build business that goes back to BrandFire is really intriguing and interesting for people to listen to. So I'd like to just kind of toss it out to you guys to introduce yourselves a little bit, maybe kind of go back and forth about that, and then we'll open things up for questions and answers, you know, throughout or else at the end. But Adam, why don't you kind of kick it off and just a little intro and we'll roll into it.
Okay, my name is Adam Padilla. I founded BrandFire in 2012 with my partner Jesse Itzler, who's also a very interesting entrepreneur who kind of initiated me into the whole entrepreneurial world. And it's been a really interesting journey in that from year to year you face new challenges, and whether it's growing too fast, trying to hire too quickly, or then like kind of paring down, or figuring out, as the market shifts, figuring out who your best client is. It's been an interesting journey, but BrandFire is going strong, having a great year this year, even despite the pandemic and the crazy situation everybody's in. But along the way, BrandFire is a creative agency. I should have started with that. And it's a creative marketing agency. So to that end, I make a lot of creative myself. And on my Adam the Creator account, I have kind of a daily outlet for creativity that is not being paid for. That's not for the client. And through that world, they're called memes, Instagram memes. You make something, or you post it. You don't put too much into it. You just kind of put sort of an ad hoc kind of concept together, and you put it out there in the world, and you see if it sticks. So through that world, I was always a fan of George, who's a BrandFire partner, and just through DMs and through the kind of back ends and back channels of the internet, I wound up connecting with him, and we just hit it off famously from the start. I mean, he could talk about how the connection really happened, but it was just like kismet, like right off the bat. Same work ethic and the same kind of creativity, and we connected, and the rest is history. In the past couple of years, we've had a lot of success individually and with BrandFire, and it's been a fun ride. So I like to think that we kind of straddle traditional entrepreneurial kind of agency model, and then this kind of world of informal and less tethered kind of creative, where he kind of a lot of times does his own thing and has his own cottage industry. I kind of have mine, and it connects at BrandFire. So that's sort of like the top tier. I don't want to take George's thunder, but just to kind of position how the connection happened.
Well, I love it because I think Tank's Good News, they almost become their own brands, right? So it's its own thing. It's its own thing, its own entity with you at the helm of it. So George, why don't you explain a little bit about, what you do with BrandFire and on your own as well?
Yeah, so I started a meme account in about, I guess it was around 2015, like December or so of that year. I'm sorry, December of the year prior. So let's say 2014, and then 2015 was my first year. And it was a good first year. It wasn't anything crazy. It was like my 47th attempt at trying to do something that would work. And finally, I was working for a fence company doing sales, and I was married at the time. I'm still married. I just had my first kid. And I said to myself, I'm like, I'm going to treat this job like a marriage. Like, there's no other options. I'm not going to go out looking for like the next big thing. I'm not looking to hit the lottery on some job that's going to pay me a stupid amount of money to do very little work, because that's what I was always looking for. I didn't really understand how contribution and like production brings money in. I felt like if you pay, I actually said this to my boss once. I said, if you paid me more, I would work harder. And he looked at me like I had 9 heads. He's like, that's not how it works. Like, well, I don't. And that was when I was in sales. So I was always in sales, and I always had an entrepreneurial approach to whatever I did. Even when I worked in restaurants, I remember one of my first like impactful bosses said, this, like, he would point to your section. He'd be like, that's your restaurant. You're the owner of that restaurant. Those 4 tables are all you worry about. Obviously, if somebody needs help, you help them out. But like, you got to really focus on those people and make sure that all 16, 20, 12 of them, they're yours for the night. They made a reservation. They got excited. They got dressed up. They went and picked up their friend. They drove here. They waited. And then they get to your table. You're not going to show them the best time you possibly can. So in the restaurant business, I learned a lot about what customers can expect from an experience. And I try and give people the same experience, whatever I'm doing. So with the fence, I would try and make sure that people felt comfortable. They were having a good time. They could trust me. I knew what I was talking about. I was knowledgeable. And with the memes, so the memes, it sounds funny to talk in entrepreneurial terms about something that's so, I think it's only seen as juvenile because it's new. I think in 25, 30 years, when history looks back, they'll say, oh, seemed stupid at the time, but look what these guys are doing now. So, I met Adam, and I, throughout the course of my life, have teamed up with, I guess for lack of a better term, non-doers, like dreamers, but to the point where the dream supplants the work, and the work doesn't get done because they're too busy dreaming. Adam was just like both. He just, he told me he was going to do something, and then he did it. And to have standards that low is sad, but that's basically the deal. Somebody's like, oh, I'm going to do this, and then they do it. You're like, holy crap, you did the thing.
In George's case, when he's humble about what he does in terms of the business model of memes, but memes are just they're the memes to an end, if you want to say it, but it's like it's a platform, what he created. And if you guys aren't familiar, he has 3 accounts that are each over 1.5 million, some 2 and 3 million followers, which essentially you're a media network at that point, like that's like Super Bowl ad level where you have people's attention. So he curates each of those feeds. I only do one, and because mine is more of sort of a marginalized thing that I deal with. I mainly deal with my clients at BrandFire. I don't really, my Adam the Creator account is part of my life. But for George, he pays more attention to the 3 accounts that he has and cultivates it. They're like gardens. You curate it, cultivate it. You take out what doesn't work. You watch the following. You communicate with the followings. You network about potentially how you're going to run ads on that account. And each account might have a different ad structure that he brokers individually with clients. So he'll deal with the service and then have a deal with them. And it's up to him to create that framework. How much is he being paid? What are the deliverables? What are the parameters? What are the, and he has to deal with that. So it's very entrepreneurial. It's not like a hobby. It becomes, a full-time thing. Yeah. I was just giving the
Sorry.
No,
about you.
You paused like this, you paused like this, and we thought it was for effect, and then we realized you were stuck. So
imagine I was that good of a dramatic actor that I could make that happen.
Well, Adam thought that you were.
I thought you were. I wouldn't put it past you.
So just to wrap up what I was saying, so as I kind of paid attention to what was happening on the internet and seeing where, hey, you got to go back out to mommy, buddy. Yeah, GJ, close that door. The life. I remember working at a restaurant, and I was always grilling people about how they made it in business. And this guy who started a snowboard clothing and equipment company, I can't remember the name of it. It wasn't Burton, but it was a big one that I knew, and I'm not even a snowboarder. And he simply said, I saw a hole in the market and I filled it, and it worked. And I was like, wow, that's, very simple, but impactful. And I saw a hole in the market of the media where it was like literally, it's still just pretty much all bad news all the time. Fear, anxiety, murder, kidnappings, robberies. They just want you scared. So you keep tuning in because we're addicted. Not just them, like we're wired for bad news so that we survive. So I saw a hole, I filled it, the page grew, and then influencers in the wild. I can't explain that. It was a flash in a moment where I was like, there should be an account dedicated to this. And then my next thought was, well, you could start it. What's holding you back from starting it? So I started it, and the business side, I still consider myself in sales for the most part, because I have to make sure that these people understand that the value that they're getting is not anything but a platform. So it's like, Adam was saying, this kind of in between entrepreneur thing. I think that it's a great time to be self-motivated, because it used to be you had to start a company, get an office, get employees, pay workers' comp, insurance, lights, electricity. Like the overhead was just staggering. You can make $150,000 a year. Like I just saw a guy on TikTok who flips couches. He makes $2,000 a week. That's insane to think that you could, and he only does like 2 or 3 a day. You can do anything you want. Obviously, flipping couches is not the ideal job, but working for yourself is. Working for yourself is a beautiful thing if you're the type of person that's not going to, slack on yourself. But if you've had a job and you've come out of that and you find yourself working for yourself, usually you want to keep it that way,
Right. Tank, how old is the Influencers in the Wild account? It's relatively new, right?
Yeah, I started that I started it in January, middle of January. So it's like 8 months or so old.
And which account? I'm sorry, Tina, I didn't hear what you said. Which account is this?
It's Influencers in the Wild.
Okay.
If you don't know what it is, it's unbelievable. People doing the most insane things to generate content for their social media account.
Right.
And
well, that's the influencers on Instagram. They're all influencers. That's
great.
So it's interesting to hear this side of it.
So for only being that new of an account, I think that one has like 2.1 or something wild, like in terms of the followership on it.
Yeah, 3.5 million so far.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think most of that comes over from your other accounts for the most part, but it's higher than some of your other ones? How do you think that happened?
So the initial push, I remember when I first started Tank's Good News, it hit 100,000 in a week. And I was, beyond pleased. I couldn't believe that an account that I just started at 100,000 followers, but it let me know that there was an appetite for this thing. Influencers in the Wild was like, I don't know. There's a little bit of overlap, obviously, because just people on Instagram in general, if they follow one funny thing, they're going to follow another one, whatever. It's, there's a lot of overlap in general with the meme pages and comedy content. But it's one of the few things that I've done that I think actually went viral. Like it just exploded. I couldn't keep up with the growth. It was a steep learning curve because video is a whole different ballgame. You got to get it licensed, and you cannot mess around with that. If you're just taking videos from everywhere and one of these licensing companies comes along and says, hey, you've posted 23 of our videos, you can give us a check for $23,000, or we're going to get your account taken down with copyright strikes. It's like, what do you do? So I had to be rapidly smart about it and get everything squared away. Luckily, there's a company for everything. There's a company that I linked up with that handles all of the back end licensing. And, there's a revenue split. They'll sell it to clip shows. The pandemic was a big one for that account, because I figured if people aren't out doing stuff and getting content, how am I going to, because I don't make the content. I'm subject to what comes in. But now that I survived the pandemic, like I missed some what I would consider to be influencer holidays. We missed Coachella, which would have been bananas. But we had some things that happened where, you know, it was in the news, a lot of different websites when it first started, like the first 3 weeks. And then every couple of weeks since then, there's something that happens where I'll post something on the page. Like when the protests were going on, this was a tough situation for me because I posted a video of a girl who was at the protest in a long black dress with a sign, Black Lives Matter. She obviously wasn't there to join with the people. She was there to get content and look like she was doing something. And I just thought it was funny that somebody would do this. And I posted it and it went, it went bananas. It had like 35 million views on Twitter. It had a ton of views on Instagram. And this girl started getting death threats. And then now I'm like, holy shit, so I put a video out that said like, you know, I'm not in the life ruining business. I was trying to expose the behavior, not the individual. Leave this girl alone. She's, you know, she did the wrong thing. What do you want to ruin this girl's life or actually kill her because she did something like stupid, like really stupid? So there's been a lot of ups and downs, but a ton of learning through this whole process, a ton. And that's it. That's the best you can do is just keep putting one foot in front of the other and pay attention and learn where you can and take that forward and just try and keep building on what you pick up along the way.